Welcome back, Queen, to another episode of Creatress of Freedom. Ah, it's such an honor to be here. Welcome. I love having you here. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to tune on in and share this beautiful conversation with me today. I um I really want to share with you my recent experience that I went to here in Crete. I went to a healing arts festival, uh, depending on when you're listening to this episode, but it was in July. And it was my first festival since being here in Greece. So I was super excited by that. But it was just a really beautiful spiritual, healing, transformational, evolving, deepening, softening festival, and it went Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. I didn't go to the Friday night; it was just like a music introductory, and then it kicked off on the Saturday and the Sunday. So I wanted to share with you just some of the big reflections that I had and some big healing that also occurred as well. You guys know that I love to keep it real and I love to share this path with you and this journey with you. And so it's important to me that I share this. This is part of my mission. Part of my work is to share the deep and the vulnerable side of the things that I'm also working through, or that I have worked through, so that you can see yourself in my story. So this particular festival that I went to, the main intention for going was I've really been missing sisterhood, like the deep sisterhood, where we go. I've really been missing the deep sisterhood, and I mean like deep, where we go deep and we don't just have surface level conversations. I mean, we have conversations that are like, what are you working through? What's present for you right now? How can I support you? Like the deeper work. That's really what I love and what I'm truly called to. And so I love being able to connect with deeper sisters that are on a similar journey, that have the capacity to go deep, because not everyone has that capacity to go deep. It depends on where they are in their journey. And so that's something that I've really been missing is, back in Australia, I have a few sisters. I don't have a lot, but I'm actually really grateful because the few that I do have are deep, deep quality sisters. They're my ride or dies. I know that I can have any kind of conversation with them about anything, and they will hold that space, and vice versa. And then I also have beautiful sisters from all over the world as well, just because of different containers that I've been in as well. But I was really missing that, the closeness of the intimate sisterhood here, that I'm where I'm living now. And so I have met some beautiful people along the journey. I've been here for 6 months now, but a lot of people that come to the island are usually digital nomads, or they're traveling. And so the women that I have met have been here, but only for a short period of time, and then they've moved on to travel, or they've gone back to their home country. And so I really have made some beautiful connections, but nothing that's been like super super long and deep, because of the fact that people are moving around. So I've really been feeling this deep call. And so as I was like sitting with this over the last probably month, I would say, and even like I've been having conversations with my really dear sisters across the world, and they've been saying to me like, how are you going? And I have been saying to them, I'm really missing the deep sisterhood connection right now. And so I've been keeping my eye open for different events and things like that, where I know I'm going to find my people, because I know I'm not going to find my people going and sitting at a bar and, drinking and getting drunk. That's just not my scene. I'm past that stage. I want to be around people that are choosing to live a high vibration lifestyle, that are choosing to be better, that are choosing to make an impact in this world. Like, they're the kind of people that I want to surround myself with, because I understand the energetics is so important to really living the big life, and the people that you surround yourself can either make or break that. And so it's taken me a long time to create peace, inner peace in my own life. And so I'm very mindful who I let come into my space. So yeah, so that's something that I've really been missing, is that deep sisterhood connection. So when this festival came up, it's in one of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, and I read through the itinerary and I thought, oh yeah, like it sounds pretty good. And I was like, you know what, like it doesn't matter like what the itinerary is. I'm sure that I'm going to find some of my people there. And really, like my intention was like to find some new sisters. That was what the intention was. So I didn't tell like any of my other friends here that I was going. I just really wanted to go on my own. I know myself, and so I know that when I am with somebody else, I tend to gravitate to that person, and I tend to not put myself out there, and I tend to kind of keep with my safe person. So going on my own really does allow me to step out of my comfort zone and really allow me to um, push the edges just that little bit more. So I was really grateful that I went on my own. And so one of the really big reflections that I had that I want to share with you was just how far I've come on this journey. You know, a past version of Annie would have not been okay in her own skin to go and be there and be alone. I would have had to have like taken someone with me. And so I just had this moment as I walked in and I paid and sorted myself out and, you know, kind of wandered around the gardens and just kind of grounded my energy into the festival retreat space. You know, I was saying hello to a few people, but was very much just in my own little world. And I just sat there and I almost like took myself out of my body and zoomed out and like had this bird's eye view of myself. And I just had this deep gratitude for being really building the trust in myself to be in situations like that where I could attend on my own and be really okay with that and really be okay with putting myself out there and, you know, meeting different people and having different conversations. There was people from all over the world that were at this retreat. It was insane, or festival. Um, and so just to really have that level of conversation and awareness around where I was at with myself was really beautiful, because I know that a past version of me would have, number one, not gone if I didn't have somebody come with me. But number two, if I happened to just be on my own, standing on my own for just even 5 seconds, my mind would have raced a million different stories around why no one was talking to me. I would have been standing there and I would have been like, no one's talking to me. Great. Why am I even here? Like this is the shit that used to run through my head when I would go to places and I would feel left out and I would feel rejected and I would feel abandoned. And then that would bring up all of my abandonment stuff with my parents as well, because I was abandoned from, you know, a young age, from 18, and still don't have a relationship with them. And so that would have just like bought into all of that story and made it real again and made it the truth, right? Because that's what happens when we keep getting evidence of the story that keeps showing up. This story then becomes what we class as truth, because we have enough evidence to prove that it's true, but it's actually not true. And so as I was like sitting there, I was just observing and I was watching like there was a few people that were in groups and, you know, everyone was kind of getting to know everyone. And I just was like, wow, I'm just actually really, I'm happy and I'm content that I can sit here and I can watch other people mingle and chat. And I don't have a story. I don't have a story around it. Like, what the? This is crazy. Like, there was nothing there. There was nothing like, oh, I'm not worthy to be here, or oh, like they think I'm weird, or, you know, any of that. Like, there was none of that, right? And then we finally started the ceremony. So I was really, really proud of myself about that. And then our fucking inner mean critic, oh, she's a little bitch. So my inner mean critic, so if you've been in my world before, I talk about naming your inner critic and naming your inner mean girl, because she is actually separate from you. And when you can learn to distinguish between the two, life becomes a hell of a lot easier. But anyway, so we were sitting around in the circle, right? And we had started. And I had done a podcast recording that morning. So I didn't have a full face of makeup on, but I had lipstick and I had my brows done, and I had mascara on. So like I had some makeup on. And as I was sitting in this circle, I caught myself. I can't believe that I'm even like going to say this, but I know that I'm not alone, and that's why I want to share these stories, because I want to normalize these things. And I caught myself going, I'm the only one with makeup on. Should I be here? So just minutes before, I had this beautiful reflection of like, wow, I'm so happy, that I'm here, and that I'm just accepting myself. And then the minute that we sat down in circle and I was really like face to face with everyone, this story came in. And then my story went to, oh well, I'm not very spiritual if I have makeup on. Can you believe that? Like, that was the story that was coming through, that I'm not spiritual because I had makeup on, and that these other women here are more spiritual than me because they don't have makeup on. And so that means that they care for themselves more. Like, I had this entire run of story. It went, they don't have makeup on, which means that they are more low tox, which means that they look after themselves more. And so that then means that they're better than me. Like, how fucking insane is our inner critic? Can you believe that that was the scenario that I was catching in my mind? And so I just really let this play out, and I really sat and observed. So I've been able to really catch this thought, but really like separate myself from it. And so as these thoughts were coming through, I was like, wow, is that really what you think, Annie? Like, you think that because you've got makeup on, that makes you less spiritual. And so then as I'm like having these thoughts, then I'm like dissecting these thoughts in the process, because my self-awareness is like just mind-blowing. There's something I'm really grateful for building, is my self-awareness. And so as I'm like reflecting on that, I'm like, is that even true? Like, this is what's going on in my mind as we're sitting in ceremony, right? I'm like, is that even true? Like, do I think that about other people? Do I think that because they don't have makeup on, that they're more spiritual? Like, would I judge someone if they showed up here and they had makeup? And I was like, no, like I don't believe that I would, And then I went down this other spiral of like, well, what even is spirituality? Because to me, spirituality isn't defined by what you wear, or how much makeup you wear, or the clothing that you have on, or any of that. Spirituality to me is about who you're being, right? It's you being as a human being. It's like, how is your presence? How do you talk? How do you show up? How do you show space for other people? Like, to me, that's what being spiritual is. It's having the awareness. It's being able to um, have deeper conversations. And none of that is made up in the appearance of anybody, right? It's all about who we're being as a human being. And so this whole process was just going through my mind, and I just was like, wow, this is insane. And so I'm super grateful that I was able to reduce that gap and pull myself up and out of it before it continued spiraling, because that could have completely changed my entire festival experience, because then that would have meant that I could have isolated myself more, right? Because I've got this story that I'm not spiritual and I shouldn't be here because I'm wearing makeup. And so then that story then could have potentially followed on with like, well, the other girls aren't going to want to play with me, air quotation marks, because like I've got makeup on and they probably think that I'm not spiritual enough, which really is just all my own projections, right? Nobody had said that at all. That was all my own projections that I was feeling. And so that could have very much changed the way that the rest of the festival went, because I guarantee that I would have isolated myself. I guarantee that I would have been like, see, this is what happens. I'm not spiritual enough. They didn't want to play with me. They didn't want to talk to me because I have makeup on and because I'm not spiritual. And so it's so important to really start to build awareness around your conversations that you're having with yourself, that your inner critic is bringing to the surface, because this is where your shadows are. And so insecurities is always like one of mine. Like, my self-appearance is always something that I'm always constantly working through. From a very, very young age, I always had body image issues. And so I feel like I can definitely close the gap a lot quicker now, but it is still something that does come to the surface and raise its ugly head every now and then. And I know that it's because my inner critic wants to keep me safe. I'm fully aware of that, but it still is a work in progress, and I don't know if it will ever be gone. And I'm not sure that I ever want it to be gone, because it does really show me that I'm human, and it does show me where the sticky points are. And it also shows me, how I get to deepen my relationships. And so if I've got this uh, misconception that I'm not spiritual because I've got makeup on, can you imagine how that's going to impact my sisterhood connections? Which, remember, was my intention, right? My intention was to have the sisterhood connection. So this is why it's so important to understand this, okay? So I caught that and I was like, interesting. We're not going to buy into that story, because that's just a bullshit story. And that is nothing to do, like, the fact you've got makeup on doesn't mean that you're spiritual or not. Okay. So I really was being mindful of not making it mean anything. And I was really happy with that process that I worked through. And then from there, we moved into a workshop that was a singing workshop. And so I actually really love to sing. Um, it's like a love language for me. It really helps me express my voice. I feel like it helps me raise my vibration. Using our throat chakra is one of the most incredible things that we can do for ourselves. It really helps us express ourselves. It helps us set boundaries. And so singing is definitely a way where I can do that. So this instructor was leading us through this beautiful workshop, and we were going through the workshop, and he was teaching us this ancient song that is across the world, but it's actually a Greek song, it's the oldest ancient song, and no one really knows the meaning of what the song actually means. It was found, the script was found on like a stone, and they believe that in ancient times it was written down, and they believe that it was a song, but no one really knows the meaning of it. It's the most beautiful song. I'll drop a link in the show notes if you want to go and have a listen to it. It has, I don't know, it's just got this heartfelt feeling to the words, even though the words are sung in Greek. It's just got this beautiful heartfelt melody to it. And so he was teaching us this song. And so we were all singing it together as a collective. And then he said, so now what I want everyone to do is to sing this like background kind of like hum tune. So we had to all do that. And then he said, and then I want everyone to go around, and I want everyone to use this as an opportunity of freedom of speech for you to play with your own voice and to sing something with whatever feels good. It doesn't have to go in with the beat, like just allow yourself to express. And then he said, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then you can just tap the person beside you to let them know that it's their turn. And instantly I caught myself and I was like, oh, I'm tapping the next person. I was like, I'm not doing that. No way. And I find it so fascinating, because this is the shit that I teach, right? Like, this is the shit that I teach. And I'm like, wow, this is mind blowing to see that I teach this, and I encourage my clients to lean into the discomfort, and how quickly my ego wants me to bail on situations. And so I'm like, no, I'm tapping out. I'm tapping out. I am not putting myself in a position to be humiliated, is what was coming through. And so as it went around to every single person, like, I was sort of towards the end of the group. So there was a lot of time for me to process my thoughts of like, am I going to? And I went in and out, and I was like, no, I'm going to lean into this discomfort. And then I'm like, no, fuck that. Like, I get to decide what I want to do. And then I'd be like, well, what would you tell your clients right now, Annie? And then I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to do it, because I'm all about setting an example. So I'm going to lean in, and I'm going to do the thing that's hard, because on the other side of that, I know magic happens. And so that was this process that I was going through in my bloody mind. I couldn't believe it. And it got closer and closer, and I was in and out. I was like, nope, I'm passing. And then I was like, no, I'm going to. Nope, I'm passing. No, I'm going to. And it was getting closer and closer. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to lean in. I'm going to lean in, and I'm going to do this, because at the end of the day, the only person I'm in competition with is myself. I'm not in competition with anybody else. And if everyone else can do it, which literally everybody else, no one passed it off, right? So everyone had done it. And I thought, I don't want to be that person that's the only person that doesn't do it. Like, that's embarrassing. And this is going to be a challenge. This is an edge. And I'm all about leaning into my edges. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I get the tap on my leg to say that it's my turn, and off I go. And I just like let my voice just do what it wants to do. And it sings this beautiful hum or tune. I don't even know what it was. It was very intuitive that was coming through. And it just flowed through me. And I closed my eyes. So I was just in my own little bubble, my own little space. And I put before it became my turn, when I'd fully decided I was committing, I put a little pink bubble around me so that I could protect myself and feel safe in my own little space. And then I just let my voice go. And then after I felt like I was complete, I opened my eyes up and I tapped the lady beside me, and she went on and she sang. And I was so chuffed with myself. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. Like, it actually felt really freeing. It felt really liberating that I was able to step into the discomfort. And I was like so proud that I did that. And no one said anything, and no one laughed, and no one did anything. And everyone just held beautiful space. And I was like, wow, like, this is why I do this work. This is why I do this work, because I know that on the other side of discomfort, there is so much magic. And I felt like I got to rebuild the trust with myself even more to a new level. And so I wanted to share that with you because I feel like we often are in different scenarios where we are faced with an opportunity to lean into the discomfort, where we are faced with an opportunity to say something to a staff member or to a friend or to another person, and we avoid it because it feels uncomfortable. But when we actually lean into it and we have the tools to, put our pink bubble around us and protect us, and then be able to, lean in and operate from the heart space rather than from fear, magic really does happen on the other side. So maybe there's a situation where you know that you need to lean in, or maybe you can just take this on board right now and know that moving forward, that anytime you're faced with this situation, maybe you can remember this episode right now and think, yes, like I remember Annie talking about that, where she leaned into the discomfort and it was really magical on the other side. So I wanted to share that with you. And then as the day went on, there was lots of music, and there was, it was really beautiful just to witness the way that everyone was interacting with everyone, and the different speakers, I guess, or workshop leaders, and how they just were really showing different levels of creativity that they were bringing to the table, and it was just so beautiful to witness. And then as the night went on, we moved into the ecstatic dance, and then we moved into the sound healing. And so as we moved into the ecstatic dance, again, like I had this beautiful reflection of, so this ecstatic dance, if you've done ecstatic dance, it's all about getting out of your head and into your body, right? And it's really about, a lot of it is closing your eyes down, and the music is very, like, it depends. It can be start off a little bit sensual to get you in your body, then it can go into a little bit uh, like techno-y kind of vibes. Anyway, it's really fun. I actually really enjoy it, and I love. If you've been in my world, you know I love dancing, so I'm all for a dance party. But again, like, as we're sitting, well, not sitting, but as we're in this space, right, and the DJ's got the music going, and it's still like, it's kind of on dusk, the sun's setting. So you can still kind of see everybody's dancing. And, I was just really observing as I was dancing and doing my own thing as well, and like feeling into the music and feeling the music in my body. And I was observing everybody else's dance moves. And I just was like, wow, how magical is this, right? How magical is it that these people here are all expressing themselves, right? Like, the theme was ecstatic dancing. So you could express yourself in any way. You let the music feel into your body. Like, some people weren't even in rhythm with the beat, and that's okay, right? And so as this was like happening, I was like dancing, I was in my body, and I was loving it. And I had this download come through of like, this is exactly what business is like. And I was like, oh, okay. And I like said to the universe, I'm like, tell me more. And they're like, business is it's just a form of creativity, right? It's just a form of expressing yourself creatively. There's no right or wrong. And I was like, wow, yes, this is so true. Like, as we're watching everyone's going through their own process. Everyone's getting what it is that they need out of this beautiful ecstatic dance, and just the energy and the vibration of us all being together as a collective and as one. That's enough for you to get out of it whatever it is that you need. And so that exactly correlates to business, because it's like you get to use your business model as a way to be creative. You get to use your business model to decide however you want that to look. And I was like, this is so true. There's no right or wrong way. There was not one person, sorry, there was not two people that were doing the same move, but yet they were both having a really profound experience. And so that's exactly the same with business. There's not two people that can do the same thing in business, and both of them can have really profound experiences within their business. And so it was just this beautiful reminder. And that's why I wanted to share that with you, because it's like, don't get caught up in you're not doing it right or they're doing it different to you. Like, that's actually how it's supposed to be, because you are unique and your expression and your creative expression is so unique to you. And so let that flow through you and into your business, because the more that you tap into that, the more in alignment you're going to be. The more in alignment you are, the more money is going to flow into your life. So just from this beautiful aesthetic dance, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like mind blowing. I'm like, crazy. So I wanted to share that part with you as well. And then the last part that I wanted to share with you, from this particular day, so this was day one, was a beautiful memory. Now I can see the beauty in it. At the time, I couldn't. So we did the sound healing, massive big gongs, huge gongs, and the gongs were playing, and we're in deep, and you're journeying because you've just done the ecstatic dance, so your vibration is raised, and you're just, you could feel the vibration in this entire space. Like, you could feel it amplifying out into the village. Like, the vibration was raised in this space. And so as we drop on in and we go into the sound healing, I go through the sound healing, and then as I'm coming up out the other side of it, I have this memory that pops into my mind that was from 17 years ago. And I haven't thought about this memory for probably the best part of, I would say, probably 15 years, I reckon. And so the memory that popped in, so I don't know if I've shared much of this part of my journey publicly at all, but when I was kicked out of home, I was kicked out of home because I had a boyfriend and I had sex before marriage, and that was against the religion because I was baptized. And so there's a whole episode around all of that. So you can go and have a listen to that episode. I can't remember exactly what number it is, but there is definitely an episode where I did record about that. And so when I left home, I didn't want to move straight into my boyfriend's house. And I didn't want to move into my boyfriend's house because I already felt like I had so much guilt about doing that I didn't want to do that. And so my boyfriend had a friend, his name was Jace, and that he was married and had a couple of kids. And so they actually offered me the space at their house. They had a caravan that was set up, and they said that I could come and like live there, pay rent, and live there for a period of time. And so that's what I did. So I actually went and lived with my friends for a period of time because I couldn't bring myself to live with my boyfriend yet. It ended up happening, but I had so much guilt about and so much shame about what I had done to my parents that I didn't want to move into my boyfriend's house. That just felt too much for me. Anyway, so as I was living with my ex, sorry, not my ex, as I was living with these friends, this married couple, we would do a lot of double dates together. And so it's really interesting because when I look back now, I'm like, oh yeah, like I think, perhaps potentially. So the wife could see that there was maybe a connection between me and her husband. I couldn't because I was young and naive, and I'd only just got into the dating scene. And she actually come to me and she had a conversation with me, and she said, I'm concerned that there's feelings that are, happening between the two of you. And I was adamant. I was like, no, like I view you guys as like my parents, I'm truly grateful. Like I'm in a relationship with this was my very first boyfriend. And I look back now and I'm like, a woman always knows. A woman always knows. And yeah, so then I said to her, like, no, but she felt very deeply about it, okay? And it kind of got to the stage where we ended up having a bit of a falling out. And I think we had a falling out because of lots of different reasons. But I think mostly she felt threatened because I was in their space, which I completely understand. I was a young girl. There was like 18 years between us, right? There was a big age gap. And I also know that their marriage was also a little bit rocky too at that stage. So, adding a young girl into the dynamics was probably not the best mix for already a rocky relationship. Anyway, that we ended up having quite a big falling out to the point where it actually became physical. So she was adamant and really did not like me, and we ended up having a physical fight. So she like grabbed my hair and pushed me against the billiard table, and there's a whole scenario that like happened before all of that. But I was still living with them at this stage, and her husband was like mortified that she had carried on and was behaving like this. And anyway, I literally within the next 24 hours I had my bags packed, and I ended up moving in with my boyfriend, and he was still living with his parents at that time, and we never had a relationship with them at all. But in the meantime, so I decided that things weren't working out with my boyfriend that I was with, and things were very rocky. After about 12 months, I decided to leave him. And roughly around the same time, the married couple also split, and Jace and I started hanging out just as mates. And then obviously, like one thing led to another, and we ended up becoming a couple. So, looking back now, I can see that, from a woman's perspective, she could probably see something, but I was young and naive and I couldn't see it. And so I now understand, and I can hold compassion for her for what she might have been feeling and what she was going through. And that was her reality. And she potentially could see something that was unfolding that was unbeknownst to me. But that's ended up, her worst fear became her reality, because we actually did end up being a couple, and we were a couple for 5 years. So what she didn't want to happen did kind of becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. But it was like, why have I got this memory? I don't understand why this memory has come through. There was also a lot of other things that happened as well after that, because she was naturally, I get it. She was very bitter and angry towards me. And there was other scenarios where, in public, where I was at a pub, she had come and started another fight with me, and like I had to get an intervention order against her, and it was just insane. It was really a really insane period of my time, and I was really young and naive because I had grown up in such a strict religious household. I'd never been exposed to any of this behavior. I thought that shit just happened on movies. I didn't think it happened in real life. Like, never really was exposed to that. So being at the forefront of this was totally new to me. I was like, holy shit, like, this is insane. And she truly believed that I was the reason that her marriage had broken up, which I can understand, and I can hold that compassion for why it might feel like that. But I also think that their marriage was, not doing so well before I even came on the scene. So as this memory came through, so it was like a slideshow. I was seeing all these flashes of these scenarios of what had happened with this woman, and I was like, why is this happening? This is like, I don't understand why I'm getting this memory. And it wasn't until later that night I came home and I did some journaling, and I just tried to just like did some conscious writing. I let flow through me whatever needed to flow through. And what I discovered was that, remember, a big part of my intention of why I was attending this festival was because I wanted sisterhood connections, right? And so there was a part, I believe, looking back, that this relationship that I had with this woman was essentially a sisterhood connection, but it didn't feel safe because of, certain behaviors that she had carried on with me, but then also other things that had also happened after that, with different humiliations. And there were certain private conversations that Jason and I had, and when we separated, he ended up going back with her. And obviously, some of those private conversations that we had had, he had told her, and then she would use them as ammunition to send me a message saying that she knew about XYZ. And like, it really made me not feel safe around women, because I'm like, we're women, we're supposed to be essentially sticking together. And yeah, I know that I ended up with your husband, but nothing happened prior to you guys being separated. It all happened after we were both single. But I understand that it didn't look great. Like, it really didn't look great. And so I really believe that there was a part of me that was holding on to this memory that needed to be healed, because I think at that time I really only seen it through the lens that I wanted to see it at, right? And I thought that she was unrealistic, and I thought she was unreasonable, and her behavior was like so questionable, which all of that is true, right? But now, after being on this deeper journey that I've been on and really being able to see things from different perspectives, I actually can see it from a different perspective from the way that she was seeing it now. And I can actually hold a lot of compassion towards her for how hard that would have been and how challenging that must have been, to know that your husband left you and then ended up with the woman that you essentially knew was potentially going to be the woman that he wanted to be with. Like, I can't imagine, and was 18 years younger than you. Like that, I can't imagine what that would be like. That would be gut wrenching, right? I've never had to experience that, but I can try and put myself in those shoes, and that would be a really, really hard time. So I realized that this story was coming up because it was asking me to look at it through a new lens. It was asking me to heal it and to really hold a new level of compassion for this old scenario, because that scenario was actually blocking me from being able to make deeper connections with women, because I was holding on to that women can't be trusted, that women are mean, that women humiliate you, that women are physical with you when it's not going their way. And all of those beliefs that I was subconsciously holding, I truly believe were impacting my next lot of relationships, or like sisterhood relationships that I'm trying to call in. And so I really think that, looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, now it all makes sense. But in the moment, I was like, what the fuck? Why have I got this memory that's come through? And so I truly believe that this came through because it was helping me heal it at a new level. And I mean, of course, like, I literally just did ecstatic dancing. So I shifted so much energy out of my body. And then all of a sudden, like, this memory came through after the sound healing as well. And it just fits perfectly in with my intention of going to this festival, which was building deeper sisterhood connections. So I really was able to rewrite a lot of that story. And, I don't feel called that I need to reach out to her or anything like that. But I did write a letter, and it's just for me and for my own journal. And, I really express, how I can see things from a different perspective now that I'm older, and, I've got a little bit more life experience, like that was, I literally was just out on the world. Like, I was so naive to so many different things. And yeah, so I was able to write that letter and really forgive myself for seeing it the way that I used to see it, but also forgive her for the way that she behaved. And I understand why she was behaving that way. And I can see things from a very different perspective. It doesn't justify her behavior. She was a grown woman and shouldn't have behaved like that. But she also was hurting. And I also understand that when people are hurt, they do crazy things and things that doesn't make sense sometimes to the logical mind. And so I'm really grateful for this entire journey that I've been on over the last few years, because it's for moments like this that really help me see things through a very different lens. And I know that I get to see this through a different lens because it's actually a big part of the healing process. And as we keep healing each of the layers, we get more and more free. And that's really what everyone wants. Everyone wants to have that inner freedom, that letting go of the shackles of, who they're supposed to be, and everything that feels heavy and is weighing down on them. And when you get to that place, it's such a beautiful place to be in, because you really do allow yourself to be free. So that was my experience on day one. And then there was day two, was also really, really beautiful, because I ended up having a friend come and join me. So it's a beautiful brother that I've just met here. Um, So I met this, it's a gay couple. I met them in maybe December last year. It was at a wine festival that I went to, wine tasting festival. I really didn't drink much. I actually had a work call that night, so it was more just about the socializing. But anyway, I met them there. One is from Australia and the other one is from Egypt, which I also think is just mind blowing because I actually want to go to Egypt in November. And so now that I've met someone from Egypt, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like the universe is showing me that yes, we're on the right path. Anyway, so I happened to mention to him, to Karim, which is the guy from Egypt, I happened to mention to him that I was going to this festival. And he was like, oh, send me the details. It sounds like something I would be interested in. So I sent the details. He's like, yeah, I might come too. I was like, yeah, cool, no worries. Anyway, so we both went together on the next day, and we kind of had a conversation in the car about like what were we wanting to do for the day, and what participation wise and stuff like that. And we both come to an agreement on, yep, we do this, we do this. And there was one that was the inner child workshop, and I said I could take or leave that. Like I'm not really too fussed. And he was like, no, I think I really want to do that. I was like, cool. If you're staying, then I'll stay too. So we do the cacao ceremony first, and that was really, really beautiful. I loved that they passed everyone's cup around to every single person, and every single person got to bless a blessing into the cup before it got to the person that got to drink it. So I think that was really, really beautiful. I loved that. And then there was sound healing, and there was singing and chanting, and just, again, all just collectively in this beautiful unity. And it was just magical. It was so beautiful. And then we moved into the inner child workshop. And so this was really interesting because I definitely felt some resistance to this. And I found that really fascinating because I actually teach on inner child work. So I was like, this is interesting that this is coming up for me. But again, we leaned into the discomfort. So we had to go through, she walked us through this process where we had to dance first, and she literally put on like kids' music, like Akuna Matata, what a wonderful day. And like we had to dance and like be like kids. And then after we like danced and carried on, then we had to go and explore and just play. And it was so beautiful to witness these like full grown adults just like, some were like making flower crowns, and some were just like tickling, and some were just like throwing a ball to each other. It was literally like we were grown adults just playing like kids. And I had this moment where I was like, I don't know if I really had that as a child, because everything was so serious. Growing up in a strict religious household, we were really taught that it was our job, our main mission on this earth was to go door knocking and to preach and to live a life according to the Bible. And there really was not a lot of moments of play, and the little moments and memories that maybe there was, but it's not what I remember. I remember like a few little moments where, maybe we had a hill at the end, we lived at a dead end street, and we had a hill. And I remember my brother and I getting the for sale signs, those like plasticky for sale signs that people would put up at houses. And we would like scoot down the hill. It was quite a steep hill, dirt hill, on these. And I remember laughing and falling off at the end. And, I remember being on a motorbike and like going up the hill and, riding. We had bushland behind us. And so we would ride on the motorbike. And so I have those vague memories, but I really don't feel like I have a lot of playful memories. It always felt very serious. Even with school, like you always had to be a certain level at your school work and stuff like that. So I felt like I struggled a little bit with that because I didn't really have a lot of play in my life. And I have done a lot of inner child work, and I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned and healed a lot as well from past experiences. And then after that, then she'd guide us through a guided meditation, and then we had to draw our inner child. So what came up, but we had to, and I've actually done this in my retreats as well, and I love doing it. It's really, really, it's a really fun exercise. So you actually have to draw with your non-dominant hand, and it's amazing how childlike your drawings are. If you want to see a photo of it, let me know, and I can send you a photo of my drawing. But it's literally so childlike. And at the start, before I started drawing, I definitely was getting caught in my head where I was like, oh, like I want this to be perfect and I'm not a very good drawer. And I think this is why I had the resistance, because I knew that it was drawing, and I've always told myself that I'm not a very good drawer. I'm very creative, I'm very artistic, but when it comes to drawing, hell no, your girl does stick figures, that's it. And so as I was doing this drawing, it like really brought this sense of like just trust and surrender, and to just allow yourself to just be, and that it's okay that it's not perfect. And I think that that is a really big thing that I constantly am working through, is the perfectionism, and just allowing something to be the way that it is, and not having to have everything be so fucking perfect all the time. And after that little exercise, I was really proud of myself, because I did want to run away from that little workshop, but I got some really beautiful messages from my inner child. She reminded me that I've abandoned her again, and that that's something that she doesn't like. And she's right. I was connecting with her quite a lot. And then life just got busy, and I packed up my life and I moved and I went into adult mode, and I really haven't connected a lot with her. So I'm really excited to continue that journey with her as well, and to reconnect back with her. She definitely gave me some hard truths. And so learning to reparent yourself is one of the most beautiful gifts that we can honestly give ourselves, because all of the needs that you never had met as a child, you can actually go back and reparent yourself. And it is the most beautiful, loving, healing thing that you can do. And we actually do this inside my containers as well. And then from there, we moved into the healing dance method. And so we had to pick a theme of something that we were working through, which, I had a theme come through, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to go with that one. And then I recall myself saying what I say to my own clients, that you need to go with the very first thing that comes into your mind, because if it's the first thing that comes into your mind, it's ready to be looked at. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to take my own medicine here, and I'm going to go with this first thing. And so the theme was something that was like heavy on your heart, or that, you might have still felt like you needed to work through the emotional side of things of it, and you would know what that was. And so for me, I haven't actually shared an episode around this scenario yet, but it's definitely coming, because I feel like it's also part of my healing process too. But it was when my pop passed away. So when my grandfather passed away, I hadn't had a relationship with my parents for 17 years. And all of a sudden, my pop was in hospital, really, really sick, and everyone was called to come and spend some time with him, because it was days before he was going to cross over. And so in a small little hospital room, I was with my parents after 17 years, and my siblings and my nephews. I'd never met my nephews either. And, it was really challenging. It was really challenging. But I also seen the growth that I had in myself, because I've had a lot of anger towards probably more my dad than my mum, because my dad's actually not in the religion. It's my mum and all my mum's side that's in the religion. But I feel like my dad treats me worse than what my mum does. And so I've held a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, and felt like he's very much a hypocrite, because he lives the exact same life that I live, but he doesn't want to have a relationship with me. And so I find that really hard. And I've done a lot of healing around all of that. And it still comes up every now and then as I go to expand into new levels. And as a result, we then had the funeral, and I remember comforting my dad. We were coffin bearers, so I carried my pop out in the coffin and put it into the car. So it was me, my auntie, which is my dad's sister, my dad, my brother, my other cousin, and his sister. So it was six of us. And I remember my dad, like I could see my dad really upset. And my mum had gone to get the car to pick my nan up, because we had to walk across to the part where they were the crematorium, where they would take pop to the next part. And so my mum was nowhere to be seen. I could see my dad was really, really struggling. He was like, he'd finally like broken down. He kind of kept his strong appearance up for a while. Typical my dad, macho man, masculine man. I don't know if I've ever seen my dad cry. and until this day, right? And so I could see he was really having a hard time. Anyway, so I went up and I gave him a hug, and he actually hugged me back, which he was very cold with me in the hospital room. He definitely had his walls up, and I knew that there was a process for him to also go through too, and I was going through my own process. And so this scenario that was happening, it felt like the right thing in that moment. And it wasn't until I got home that I was really angry. I was really fucking angry because I'm going to get emotional. Because in that moment, when, I understand that it was his dad that he had lost, but I had also lost my pop. And I felt like I had to be the adult comforting him when it should have been the other way around. And so I held a lot of anger towards that because I was like, I shouldn't have had to come to you to comfort you. You should have had to come to me to comfort me. And so I've held anger about that. And I've done some work around it. Clearly, still get to do a little bit more around it. And from this place of feeling this anger and this hurt of you're supposed to be my parent and you're supposed to nurture and care and provide and look after me, but yet I'm happy to step into this role. And I had a therapy session with my therapist around this, and she said to me, I want you to remember that that version that's showing up in your dad is not like the grown man that you're seeing, right? It's potentially a younger version of himself. And so he actually doesn't have the capacity to hold the space that you need him to hold for you. And I was like, oh, wow, yes, like I needed that. I needed that different perspective on it. And she said, you were able to hold that space for him because of the amount of work that you've done and because you could put your differences aside and you could actually be the support and hold that space for him. And that's a really beautiful gift that you've done. And so being able to see these things from different perspectives really does help me on this healing journey. And so as we were doing this healing dance method, this was what came up. It was the situation with my dad, and it was at the funeral. It was literally the scenario that popped in. I could see myself hugging him. I could see myself holding the anger. And so this beautiful process that she walked us through was incredible. I've never experienced something allowing you to work through your trauma and heal it so quickly at the same time. And so I actually asked her what was the method that she used. Where does this teaching come from? And I actually am going to learn this teaching because I think it's going to be so helpful for not only me in my own path, but also to help other women that come into my world and help them through it as well. And so, sorry, my nose is running now. And so it allows you to almost categorize your feelings, your emotional body, and your thoughts. And I think that sometimes when we're working through different processes and different traumas, it's very hard to know how to navigate your feelings because you usually have really big feelings, right? And then you also have the thoughts, and then you also have the physical body response that also happens too. And so you kind of like in this turmoil of like, which one do I focus on? Which one gets my attention? Like I want to feel the feelings, but then like also my brain is racing and thinking of a million different stories. And this really allows you to create the spaces. This framework creates the spaces for each of those to have their own space, for your feelings to be felt, for your emotional body to be felt, but then for your thoughts to race, and then you go backwards through the scenario. And it's just this most beautiful healing. And you're also dancing. So there's beautiful slow music, and you're also moving your body because what can happen sometimes when we work through traumatic things is if we stay still, we can actually stop. We're not letting the emotion and the energy shift out of our body. And so we were encouraged to keep moving around and letting the body flow so that the energy could still move through us. And it was just the most beautiful, beautiful situation. And then after that, we had to partner up with our partner. So I partnered up with Karim, and we had to express what just happened for us, but through emotions and through like acting it out. So we weren't allowed to use any words at all. We literally had to act it out. And so this beautiful man, which I'm like, of course I had a man after literally the situation with my dad, because I feel like I'm always healing my masculine wound, because that is my biggest wound, is my masculine wound, which is my dad. And that shows up in multiple ways within my business with my own masculine energy, but also in relationships. So I was like, of course I've got this beautiful masculine man here in front of me that I'm about to bear all to and be super vulnerable with. And he just held the most beautiful space for me, and he made me feel really, really safe. And I literally expressed like the feelings that I was feeling. There was sadness, but then there was anger, and then there was happiness, but then there was anger again. And it was just this like roller coaster of emotions. And I was truly, truly grateful to be witnessed in the presence of a man, a beautiful, masculine, healthy man that could hold that space for me, and also show me that it's safe to be in the presence of a masculine, and that a man can show up for you when you need them to. Because I feel like that is a story that I have, because my dad hasn't always been there in my life and shown up for me. That is often a story that I run with, is that when you really need a man, he's never fucking there. And so for me to have this beautiful man in front of me showing up and showing me that, hey, I'm here and I'm present with you, like you can rewrite this story right now because I'm here, was such a gift. And I'm so grateful. And I truly believe that like he is a soul brother. Like, and I don't think I have any soul brothers, actually. No, I think they're all women. And so to have this beautiful connection with a man where there's no like intimacy, it's just this intimacy with vulnerability, is really, really beautiful. And I know that it's such a gift, and I know the universe has brought this man into my life to also help show me that I can build and have trust in a masculine energy and a masculine man. And yeah, it's just so beautiful how all of this, just the universe just really does have your back when you choose to lean in and actually allow yourself to be supported with what's around you. It's not easy. It's definitely not an easy path, but that's why they say it's only 1% of the population that are doing this kind of work. So that was my beautiful healing experience from the entire festival. If you have had something land for you or something has resonated, I would love to hear from you. I love to share these vulnerable parts of what I'm also navigating and working through. I think it's really important that you know that I'm walking the path with you. I'm literally holding your hand and we're doing it all together. And I just want to say thank you for joining me today and being here in this space and holding space for me as well to share this with you. It really means the absolute world to me. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here and you chose to stay right till the end. So thank you so much. I love you. I walk this path with you. I see you. I know that it's not always easy, but together we rise and together we be so much stronger. So thank you for tuning on in today. If it's landed, if you're ready to go on this type of work and do this type of journey, this is the type of work we do inside Evolve. I walk my walk, I talk my talk. I'm literally walking this path with you. So if you're ready to deepen those things that you know you're ready to work on, then fill out the application. You'll find it in the show notes. I'd love to see your name pop up in my email to say that you have completed it, and then I will be in touch with you about what your next steps are moving forward. Thank you for joining me today. I love you so much, and we will talk soon. Bye.